I have been stuck in the same chapter for months, and not because I did not want to move on, but because every time I got there, I needed to stop. It was like the Lord was saying, "Not yet, there is still more." And what He showed me in 2 Chronicles 18 is about right now, and it is about the marketplace. It is a warning for the season that we are in. So today it's the 25th of June, 2026. The season has already started in the month of May, and the Lord is now taking us deeper. And it is also about a group of people that God has been preparing in the secret for exactly this moment. And if you are one of them, then you are going to know it by the end of this video. I want to be clear about something before I go any further. I already released a word about the new season that God has opened in the marketplace, right? And this is not a repeat of that, but this is where the Lord takes it deeper. This is the revelation underneath the revelation, so to speak. Now, let me start with what this new season actually is, because the Lord has been very specific about its shape. Now, listen to me. There are two dimensions in this new prophetic season. The first is prophet to the marketplace, and that is operating among the people, among the souls, bringing the wisdom and the word of the Lord into the everyday environment of business, of work, influence. And the second dimension, and this is actually where the greatest emphasis falls for this season, is the prophet to Pharaoh. And that is being placed directly in proximity to those in positions of power. And it's not to blend in, not to simply do the job, but it is to consult. Your place as a prophet to the Pharaoh is to consult, to advise, and to bring what Pharaoh actually needs, but does not yet know he needs, which is exactly what Joseph did. So for many of us right now, it is a combination of both. And this is not something that we applied for, but it is that God is the one who opens the door and places you in the room. He did it with me. So just like Joseph did not choose Pharaoh, God placed him there suddenly, after years of preparation in places that nothing looked like a palace, okay? So the Lord took me out of a job where I had worked for 22 years. It was right at the beginning of 2020. And in that place, to go back to 2020, and then in that place of loss and uncertainty on a global level, he called me back home into the prophetic, and he called me back into the secret place, and he did that into learning. He called me into learning how to truly abide in him. And over those 6 years, he trained me, he retrained me, he pruned me, sometimes broke things down completely. I mean, it was a stretching and challenging 6 years. And I did not always understand what he was doing, but looking back, every single piece of it was preparation. And it was not just for ministry, but it was for the marketplace. And he has been doing this with a specific group of people. He raised them up in the secret place, training them, equipping them, purifying them, away from the spotlights and away from the recognition. This is very important. And now in this new season where we are in, he is starting to place the group suddenly into environments that they did not plan for. And if you are still in the pruning, still in the process, still waiting, then please hear this. Do not despise the season, because the depth of the preparation is directly connected to the weight of the assignment. I want to repeat that again. The depth of the preparation is directly connected to the weight of the assignment. And the Lord does not train people that he does not intend to send. So I just want to say this, your suddenly is coming. Now, there are 3 kingdom principles that the Lord has been anchoring me, anchoring in me as I step into this new season. And I believe this is for you as well. So the first is living faith. And that is faith that you demonstrate through actions and righteous living. It's demonstrating living faith. You can read in James 2, verse 26, "For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." So God never gives you the full picture. He gives you direction, but he asks you in that process to trust him with what you cannot yet see. And that is intentional. He wants to see your faith. He wants you to demonstrate that you trust him even when you cannot trace everything that he does. Now, the second is full dependence, right? By abiding in him. I can truly say I am an abider. I am a follower of Jesus Christ, and I am an abider. John 15, verse 5 says, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. So when God places you in a new environment, one that stretches you, one that is outside your comfort zone, then it is precisely because, it is precisely the place that he wants you to be so that you become fully dependent on him. Not on your skills, not on your experience, but on him. So every time that you are placed somewhere new in a new environment, you are reminded that you cannot do nothing. You can do nothing without God. The third kingdom principle for this season is doing his business. Luke 19 says, the nobleman who entrusted his servants with minas and said, do business till I come. We are not building our own thing and inviting God in. That is what I see a lot of time when I coach people. I say, what is your calling? What is your assignment? And they start sharing, and then I miss something, and the something is actually the call upon their lives. So they do something that they like, and they invite God in and think that it's the call of God, but it's not. We are stepping into what God is already doing, and this is so serious that one day we will meet him and give account for what we did with what he entrusted us. And that is the fruit, the multiplication. We need to be accountable for everything that he's given us to do for the time that we are born into. And that means sometimes that he will ask you to quit things you build, things you love, because they were not his business. And when he does, obedience is not loss, it is alignment. So these three principles are also your protection, because the marketplace is not a neutral space. It is spiritually dangerous because you cannot walk into it unequipped, right? You need to walk by revelation. You need to know who you are, why you are there, and who you are really dealing with when you sit across the table from someone. Right? So because we do not fight against flesh and blood, we do have to understand in discernment who we are actually talking to, and then take authority over the darkness. And one more thing, never go into any room in the marketplace without first going into the presence of the Lord. Now let me go back to 2 Chronicles 18, because this is where it gets really important. When you read 2 Chronicles 18, it's about Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and he goes to visit Ahab, king of Israel. And when he arrives, Ahab kills sheep and oxen in abundance for him. And this was not generosity, so read the chapter yourself. This was actually a spiritual transaction, because when he killed sheep and oxen in abundance, blood was falling on the ground. And that means a sacrifice with a hidden intention behind it. And that is to create an atmosphere, an obligation, a spiritual pull that makes the other person more likely to say yes to what you want from them. So Ahab wanted Jehoshaphat to go to war with him against Ramoth Gilead. So he sacrificed for him. He wined and dined with him. And then he asked, will you go with me? Jehoshaphat said yes, but he added one condition. He said, inquire first for the word of the Lord. So Ahab gathered his prophets, all 400 of them, and they all said the same thing. Go up, God will deliver it into your hands. 400 voices all saying the same thing, all encouraging the king to move forward, all confirming exactly what he actually wanted to hear. But Jehoshaphat was not satisfied. He looked at the 400 and said, is there not still a prophet of the Lord here? He was not impressed by the number. He was not moved by the volume. He knew in his spirit that something was missing, and what was missing was actually truth. Ahab's answer is one of the most revealing moments in this entire chapter. There is still one man, he says, Micaiah, but I hate him because he never prophesies good about me, only evil. So one man out of 400 still speaking from the Lord, and Ahab hated him for it. Now, I want you to understand what the 400 represent, because they are not just a historical group, they are a present day reality. So the 400 were not lying in the way that we typically think of lying, but they were speaking from a place of encouragement, from a place that is uplifting, what motivated, what felt positive, faith-filled. And they were actually, in modern terms, motivational speakers with a prophetic label. Think about that. And the Spirit operating through them was not the Holy Spirit, it was the Spirit of encouragement. And there is a very important difference between the two. The Holy Spirit is truth. He is life. He is light. Yes, he encourages, but he is never limited to encouragement, right? He convicts, he warns, he corrects, he redirects. And sometimes the most loving thing that he says is the hardest thing to hear. So a voice that only encourages, that never warns, that measures the validity of a word by how positive it sounds, that voice has moved away from truth. And that is dangerous because souls are at stake. Now, here is the subtlety that makes it even more dangerous. It always starts good, because the tree of knowledge of good and evil does not present itself as evil. It presents itself as good. It's only after you have taken the bite that the evil surfaces, and by then you are already in. Now, here is why this matters so much, because I was talking about the season that we are in, right? That we are stepping into. God has been raising a group of people in the secret place, as I mentioned at the beginning, training them away from the spotlights, away from the platforms, away from the recognition of the 400. And he's now slowly, one by one, releasing them. And he does that as prophets to the marketplace and prophets to Pharaoh, and into actually a season of, how do you call it, sudden positioning and strategic assignment. That is what he's doing. And the greatest danger for that group right now, and I believe that you listening is in that group, in that call of the Lord, the greatest danger for that group right now is not the marketplace itself, but it is the circle of the 400. Because as you begin to step into visibility, as you begin to grow in influence, the circle of the 400 prophets will begin to open up to you. The invitations will come, the large platforms will begin to notice you, and it will feel like breakthrough. It will feel like the Lord is finally opening doors. But I want to ask you, with all the love I have, is it breakthrough? Or is it the 400 welcoming you in? Because once you are in that circle, the question is no longer what is the Lord saying. The question becomes, what does the circle expect from me? And that is where your voice actually dies. And that is where the prophetic assignment to the marketplace and to the pharaohs get compromised. I hope you start to connect the dots here. Because you can no longer be the one man when you are trying to keep your place among the 400. So I want to ask you directly, and it is the same question that the Lord keeps asking me. Are you still that one man? Are you still that one woman? Right? Micaiah was one voice among 400, and he was hated by the king. The only one willing to say what no one else would say, and he said it anyway. At every level of growth, at every new door, at every new invitation, ask yourself, am I still that one man? Am I still inquiring of the Lord? Am I still willing to say the hard thing, the true thing, even if it costs me the room? Iron sharpens iron. A few trusted voices, yes. Real fellowship, yes. Accountability, yes. But the 400, that is the warning signal. So watch it, please. Now let me bring this all together. A new season has begun, right? God has been raising a group of people in the secret place, training them, equipping them, purifying them, and now he's placing them suddenly, and I'm one of them, and I'm sure suddenly as prophets to the marketplace and prophets to Pharaoh. And he does that into environments that they did not plan for and did not see coming. So your assignment in those environments, again, is not to blend in. It's not to survive. It is to bring the wisdom, the counsel, and the word of the Lord into spaces that desperately need it. Even when the people in those spaces do not yet know that is what they actually need from you. Joseph did not walk into Pharaoh's palace with a strategy. He walked in with a word, and that word changed the trajectory of an entire nation. And that is what you carry. So stay rooted in the word, walk by revelation, guard your voice, stay small in your own eyes, and do not let the welcome of the 400 pull you away from the assignment of the one. The marketplace needs you. Pharaoh needs his Joseph, and that is you.